Eileo guys, and welcome back. In today's video though, we're going to be taking a look at the new addition to the MSO family, which is Midsummer Miho, which if you're new to the channel, this is the Nat 5 version of the mascot of the game, which is Mijo. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it here. Alright, so quick thing before we get into the video. I know that Odin has done a review of these baby girls, so if you guys haven't checked out his review, go ahead and check it out, because I think it's really important for anything in life to have multiple viewpoints on things. That way, any opinions that you may form come from, a lot of different sources and not just me, because I'm not saying that I'm always right, because I'm never, ever correct. But anyways, here we have Fire Midsummer Miho, who is a balance type, and she's coming in with 33k HP, 3k attack, and then 2.8k defense. She is a Nat 5 too, so her stat distribution is quite good. 33k HP is quite supple for a balance type, and 3k attack and nearly 3k defense too. I really don't have any complaints with that in the stat department. But let's take a look at her skills. So there's full buff breaker, which grants a 90% chance to dispel all enemies enhancements, including shields and immunity. Then there's also defense down on her 5-star skill, and for the variant Mihos out there, at least the variant Midsummer Mihos, she does have the Fighting Spirit variant leader skill, which boosts attack up by 40 to 45%, which is useful. I'm not going to say it's 100% optimal, but that could be very, very useful, especially in a place like the Dimension Defense dungeon. And also, I do want to clarify that she is an AoE as well, which is nice to know, because some of these mons, man, they slide in here and they're just single target, and you're just like, wow, I thought this Astromon was good, but congratulations, they're actually trash. But we see with this kit here, obviously, you could bring her into a PvP situation if you really wanted to. Though defense down as a 5-star skill, I mean, 80% chance for 2 turns is quite potent. It's just, I don't know, like, it's just a debuff. I mean, the full buff breaker is the moneymaker, I guess, in certain scenarios where you may or may not need that. But overall, this is probably just more of a dimension defense type focus. But let's take a look at her skill book. So full buff breaker gets a 20% damage increase and goes up to 100%. Defense down also goes up to 100% for 2 turns. And it also receives a 20% damage increase. So not bad, but once again, I don't think it's really worth booking. Her percentages for these skills are already high enough, and if you're just going to be using her only for the Dimension Defense, then that's pretty much all that you need, because the Elemental Tower of Chaos, people have already cleared out Fire. Fire is one of the easiest ones, because hint hint, Fire Draka. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Fire Midsummer Miho. Moving on, next we do have Water Midsummer Miho, which is just a mouthful to say, and she's an attacker type. She's coming in with nearly 27k HP, 3.8k attack, and then 2.5k defense. So good stat distribution once again. I do think Fire Draka's attack is slightly higher, but we can check that here in a second. But let's go ahead and take a look at her skills. And by the way, I had mentioned in a previous video that as long as you complete her quests, especially for any new players out there, hey, welcome to the channel, my name is Eileo, but if you're a newer player, make sure you try and do this quest, because even though you have access to Dark Mona, and Dark Mona is obviously easier to build up, you could easily get this baby girl to Evo 2 and still have another dedicated wave clearer, at least for the time being. Like, that's just free right there, even though she's limited. Keep in mind, she's limited, so once this event's over, we probably won't see her again until next year. But let's go and take a look at her skills. So for her 3-star skill, she has Morale Boost, which grants 100% chance to restore 15% of allies' SP when attacking. And then for her 5-star skill, she has 90% Puncture. Once again, she is an AoE mon, so she hits all of the mons on the screen, which is great. So Draka still has a more potent Puncture, but we got to see with books if this is offset at all. So taking a look at the books, Morale Boost gets a whopping, what is that, 25% damage increase, and Puncture does go up to 100%, and it receives a 20% damage increase as well. But this, once again, is a heavy investment for books, because while 100% Puncture is great, I would prefer just getting Fire Draka, who naturally has 100% Puncture, and Fire Draka does come around a lot more often than Midsummer Miho. Now, this isn't going to say that Midsummer Miho, in terms of the water one, is useless at all. As stated before, very good wave clearer, even though we have plenty in the game. The only, Achilles heel to this baby girl is that she's limited. If you're lucky enough to pick her up though, you could definitely use her in places like the Elemental Tower of Chaos for the water mons, and also anywhere where water mons you may be using a lot more in general here. So she doesn't really change up, I guess, the water nuker meta like water Valk or water Loki and water Amayoji, I believe, because she's limited. There's no point of saying this mon eradicates all of these other mons like Fire Draka does in terms of Fire Astramon, when you don't have any control over whether this mon will ever come back at all. So don't get too caught up in not having her at Evo 3. I think she's still usable even at Evo 2, but yeah, at the end of the day, she's just another PvE wave clearer, and you can pretty much bring her anywhere you want. Also, let me clarify too, it looks like Draka only has 100% more attack than Water Miho, or shall I say Midsummer Water Miho. Morale boost is the same, 15% and 100%. Skillbook wise, you still get that 20% right there, and I think Miho beats him out on the morale boost like damage increase, but that's literally only by 5%. So the main selling point of Midsummer Miho, the water version of course, is that we basically have a water version of Fire Draka. And then moving on past that though, we do have the wood version of Midsummer Miho, who is also an attacker type. She's coming in with 28k HP, 3.7k attack, and then 2.7k defense. So once again, good stat distribution, nothing too over the top, but I will say that so far I've been impressed with their stat distribution. It doesn't seem like they are on the lower spectrum of the Nat 5 stats, but let's take a look at her skills. So for her 3-star skill, it's Lethal Strike, which greatly increases attack power in proportion to the target's total defense. I wonder where that could be useful at. And then there's also Attack Down, 80% chance to reduce enemy's attack for 2 turns. So this is literally just a copy of the Fire one, but the Fire one had, what was her 3-star skill? I already forgot. Full Buff Breaker. Full Buff Breaker and Defense Down. We have Lethal Strike and Attack Down. So pretty much just a Dimension Defense mon. I don't really see any point in bringing this into a PvP situation because yes, Lethal Strike is useful. Attack Down, not so much if you're wasting an entire skill slot on that attack, because chances are you could be dead or CC'd / crowd control before you even get that Attack Down off. And even if you get it off, what is it going to do? Tell me. That's what I thought. Taking a look at the skills though, Lethal Strike receives a whopping 20% damage increase, and then Attack Down gets a 20% damage increase and goes up to 100% for 2 turns. So once again, I mean, you do have to have Nat 5 books to book up these baby girls, so I probably wouldn't do that one either. Alright, and then coming up next though, we do have Light Midsummer Miho, who is a defender type, and I do believe the original Nat 3 version of Light Miho is also a defender, but I could be wrong. But anyway, she has 29k HP, 2.5k attack, and then 3.8k defense. Once again, decent strat distribution, though I could be a little bit more scrutinizing because this is the light and dark versions of the mons, where the money should be being made with these light and dark. So hopefully they deliver in that department. But let's go ahead and take a look at her skills. So for her 3-star skill, she has Battle Rush, which her attacks restore 10% of all allies' HP and SP. Very interesting. And then for her 5-star skill, she has Immunity, which removes all negative effects from allies and grants them immunity for 3 turns. So while immune, they will not be affected by negative effects whatsoever. So, I mean, I could definitely see some usage of this baby girl in certain places. Once again, like Dimension Defense, I do know one of the Apophis does just a disgusting amount of curse stacks. So if you're having problems surviving that, this in theory could be helpful for you. And once again, probably the main selling point of this Astramon may be in a PvP situation where you have other mons that, like Dark Cupid for example, who can kind of shield up your squad, and this baby girl right here will help them kind of restore their health, get their SP back up, and prevent any debuffs from sticking on them. Now, immunity has to go off before this happens here, but depending on your Super Ascension skills, it's just a matter of time if she can act or not, because chances are she'll probably be focused on just because of this. I'm not saying that she's meta changing or groundbreaking, but she could prove to be interesting here in the long run. But let's take a look at the skill books though. So Battle Rush still stays at the 10%, and it does receive a 25% damage boost, and then immunity also receives a 25% damage boost, so nothing changes. So in terms of book investment, I wouldn't do this for the light Midsummer Miho either. But also, when I think about it too, there's some other Battle Rush mons that are light mons that could prove to be very peculiar with this setup. Like Shiva, for example, has what, Battle Rush and HP aggression. So if you get a couple of Battle Rushes in there, that could be potentially annoying. But we'll have to see if Ancient Angel can actually pull this light Miho, or if he goes for the dark one and he makes it the next PvP meta. And alright, last but not least, we do have Dark Midsummer Miho, who is an attacker type as well, and she's coming in here with 30k HP, 3.8k attack, and then 2.8k defense. Okay, that's perfectly fine. I mean, she is a dark type, so I do see her attack being slightly lower than the other versions, but in this case it's not, because of the innate added crit damage into her for being a dark type in general, but that did not happen. So let's take a look at her skills though. So she has Lethal Strike on the 3-star skill, and then Attack Up for the 5-star skill. Once again, this seems to be a little bit more Dimension Defense focused more so than anything, but I could see this possibly being useful in a PvP situation too, where you know you're going to be up against a whole bunch of defense aggressors. Now this will hopefully make people that are running a team full of defense aggressors probably change it up a little bit, but in theory, if you wanted to kill a defense aggressor, the best way is probably going to be with a baby girl like this, who's a dark type. You can build her with a whole bunch of crit rate, get that crit damage boosted up as well, and with a 3.8k attack stat, I mean, the attack is enough in itself to hopefully do some damage. Paired up with this Attack Up too, I mean, it just synergizes well in certain scenarios. And all of the other 98% of scenarios doesn't do anything. But for Dimension Defense, and if you're fighting a defense aggressor or a Astromon with a whole bunch of defense, this could be the baby girl for you. Skill book wise though, Lethal Strike receives a 25% damage boost, and then Attack Up goes what, to 3 turns and receives a 20% damage boost? Am I reading that correctly here? Yeah, it goes up to 3 turns. So, I mean, book investment isn't too bad with these, but I would say, like, unless you're kind of like hardcore hell-bent on using these to the very, very end, then I don't really see the desire to kind of book any of these Astromon up. I think their skill setup is fine as they are. There's nothing groundbreaking other than the water one, and that's if you get lucky and it all rolls into that 5-star skill slot. But overall, I think the Mihos are interesting. It's more Dimension Defense based than anything else other than like light and maybe dark being situational. Obviously the water one is the water version of Fire Jacka, which once again is just another wave clear added to the mix. This is the first Watermon, I believe, with that type of kit too, which is good and also bad, because if you literally start the game a month later than this event, then congratulations, you may not see her ever again, or you may not see her until the next summer, which by then you'll have a Fire Drakka, and other than using her in certain situations where Fire Drakka isn't available, won't really be a big game changer unless, as I stated before, you started off the game and you know, you end up getting your Dark Mona, and you did the story events, end up getting your Water Midsummer Miho, and you can use her at Evo 2. Alright, so before I shut this video off though, I'm going to go ahead and talk about at least the ones that I see being the most popular, or at least the ones that I would go for first. So if you're big on Dimension Defense, obviously having the dark version is going to be the best bet for you, probably followed by the fire one, unless you need full buff breakers, but you can farm out Zeus, Fire Zeus that is, to get a dedicated full buff breaker, and then also the wood one, because all of those Astromon have their own uses in Dimension Defense if you're hard into that. Outside of that though, obviously for a PvP situation, light Midsummer Miho may be the the queen in this situation. Water one is once again another wave clearer, so that's perfectly fine if you need one or just want to collect her. Like, I don't mind collecting her at all. And then Dark could also in theory be used in a PvP situation just because of her high attack stat and her eating away at any defense aggressors. So she does have kind of a multi-use aspect to her. Personally, even though I have no control over this, will probably be aiming for the dark one first, and if I can get the light one, that will be great. And then the other ones, I may pick up the water one because we get her for free. But yeah, I don't have any hopes of Evo 3ing all of these baby girls without any of the holy gleams from World Boss to get them to Evo 3 cheaply, because, you know, I don't have any control over the Prima Festival and how RNG wants to cuck me or not. But since I said that, I'm pretty much guaranteed to get the light Midsummer Miho above anything else. But yeah, you guys, feel free to leave in the comments below if you guys are excited about it. Will you be participating in the festival to get Midsummer Miho or not? Because keep in mind, once again, she's limited. She probably won't be back this year. Once again, I estimate probably next year, but I could be wrong. But yeah, that's pretty much it. See ya.